Welcome to the Draftstars AFL show with Smatho and Roody.
Thanks to Draftstars and to Daily Fantasy Rankings. This is the prelim finals edition of the Draftstars AFL show, with Smatho and Roody. Good evening to all the viewers on the live stream. Hello to all the viewers who are listening to us on the podcast or looking at the replay for this Friday night prelim. Hopefully it's a classic game between the Cats and the Lions at the MCG. Roody's back. Good evening, mate. How are you today? Obviously, your Battle Demons are gone. And
yeah, you know what?
Sammy Stosa.
Nice one there. I'll pay that. Yeah, look, it's. I was talking to all my Melbourne friends. We're all of the same opinion. Like, it's not like we went out in controversial circumstances. That we played our heart out and played amazingly and just fell short. We put up two of the most pitiful finals performances you're likely to see, back to back. I went with my son the first game and just my mate with the second game, and it was like going the same game. It was like going to the same game, and I tweeted out a few months ago. It didn't get one single like. I thought it was hilarious myself, but I was like, Melbourne strategy meeting. Guys, we need something different. Oh, I know. Let's kick it down the line to Gawn. Yeah. Oh, genius play. But look, Goodwin's been found out. I've said this many, many times. He's a good leader, but a bad strategist, and we were outplayed, outcoached. What can you do?
There's one player that can say they held their head up high last week and gave it a fair dinkum crack. Was swung from defence to the forward line. Harrison Petty. What a player.
My boy.
Now, speaking about your boy, you had some kind words to say last week. I need to remind the viewers. This happened 7 days ago to the minute with this hot take. Take a look at this.
And so has Harry Petty. I mean, I'd love to win anything. I really would. But wouldn't you just need a long, bloody hot shower if you won a tournament with Harry Petty?
Well, you've got cash. You must have cash.
Yeah, I know.
Yes,
but
I understand. You feel dirty and you're thinking, that's gross. But, hey, it's allowed me to get out to other players who have done well for me.
And you don't also lose points for crying either. So if you play Harry Petty, you won't lose points for crying.
Now, Roody, how many fantasy points did you score last week? Oh, Mr. Petty.
Fair few, wasn't it? Like 85 or something?
85 fantasy points. And appeared in multiple winning lineups last week.
That wasn't my contention. My contention wasn't that he wouldn't be a good value play. I mean, obviously, I played him myself in a fair few lineups, but it's just like, who was that? I always forget. Who was the St Kilda player who scored like 20? Like his average was 20. Goodness me. Some of the listeners might be able to fill me in here. Was it Nathan Brown? Like the defender Nathan Brown, not the Bulldogs. Anyway, someone, his average was 20, and then one day he scored 90. And won someone a tournament. Anyway, that's the point I was making. But well done to Harry. But well done to Simon Goodwin. The game's done, right? The game is finished. And then with 3 minutes to go, he makes a change. And it works. I mean, that's what I'm saying. Anyway, whatever. But hey, Smatho, we are not here to give me shit. We are not. Well, actually, we are. But we're not here to talk about Melbourne. We are here to talk about what should hopefully be a fantastic preliminary final between the Cats and the Lions.
Excellent. Let's talk about this game. If you do have a question from the live viewers tonight, pop in the chat. Obviously, Rudy's there waiting for your questions, and he'll answer them to the best of his ability. But let's talk about this prelim game. $100,000 prize pool. We're back in the six-figure prize pools. Shout out to the DFS community who also have flocked to the AFL product over the last 2 weeks of the finals. You have gone over your expectations. So shout out to you guys. Let's put up six figures. Let's see if we can take down this huge $7,990 first prize. Let's check out the teams ready. First of all, there's no changes at the Cats because Mark O'Connor was the medical sub last week and he's been named on the emergencies. Parfitt is also on the emergency best. I don't think Sam Menegola is going to get a game. He hasn't trained. And then Jonathan Segler, I'm not sure you run a ruckman as your sub. So it'll either be Mark O'Connor or Brandon Parfitt as your medical sub. As for the Lions, Joe Danaher with child in hand. Congratulations to him. He's going to be back along with Oscar McInerney with half his face. He's going to give it a go. Darcy Ford's been omitted. Reece Matheson was the medical sub, but he's likely to get the vest again. And Tom Fullerton, who did pretty well last week, he's also out for the Lions. So let's start the Lions then, Rudy. Obviously, Danaher and Oscar McInerney are big ins for these guys.
Yeah, I mean, thank goodness that we don't have to decide. We could have had almost on the rum and cokes. Yeah. How'd you know? It's actually bourbon and coke, but pretty close. So yeah, thank God we don't have to decide. It's like pick one of Oscar or Darcy so that they're not playing together, which makes it a little bit easier. Otherwise, we'd have like 7 rucks on the slate to choose from. So that kind of makes it a little bit easier for us to make our ruck selections. Big Joe comes back in. So structurally, there's nothing really to talk about. A tall for a tall in Danaher for Fullerton, and then a ruck for a ruck with Oscar and Darcy Fort. So yeah, otherwise roles are pretty much going to be pretty clearly defined. Just keep your eye on Jake Kolodajnij as been named on the bench. He's a bit sore. They brought him back. He got injured almost straight away and was subbed out really, really early for O'Connor. And you would think that, Geelong are probably going to win this game. Let's be honest. It would need a really amazing performance from Brisbane. They would need to get that really fast ball movement game going. You know, if you're going to beat Geelong, the only way you can do it is through speed, right? You're not going to keep the ball off them all game. They're too good for that. And the other thing is, if you just want to make sure, if Geelong really want to make sure that there's no chance of Brisbane winning, well, then you tag Lachie Neale. You know, Neale in the second half last week was unbelievable. Story goes that Brayshaw was actually running with him for the first half and Neale was pretty quiet, but apparently Brayshaw was just gassed. He always kind of looks very tired when he runs, but he was gassed. They moved Tom Sparrow onto Lachie Neale. Lachie Neale went nuts, and of course Jared Berry went crazy as well. So my point is, don't be surprised if Mark O'Connor is a late inclusion for Jake Kolodajnij, which will structurally won't really hurt Geelong that much, losing Kolodajnij, but it does give them an opportunity to tag Neale. Without O'Connor in the team, I don't see an obvious tag. Blixarves, he's too small. Neale's too small for Blixarves, if you know what I mean. Like, you know, Blixarves could tag Bontempelli, could tag Cripps, but it's not really the right matchup for Blixarves to go to Neale. I just don't see that happening. It'd be a very odd matchup. Anyway, so structurally, nothing to really look at in the teams. Just watch out for that late change because it is Geelong. They do love a late change.
They do love a late change. So 60 minutes before the game on Friday night, make sure you look at final teams. Don't be caught with AO against your players if you're playing on Draftstars. I've just brought up the tools on Daily Fantasy Rankings, which are always free to use. Want to highlight a couple of items here. Also, Geelong the last couple of weeks have been giving up points to opposition backs. Obviously, last week Brisbane did have a fair good fantasy outing with Coleman and Daniel Rich going 90 plus last week. So again, another nice matchup for them against the Cats backs. As we saw last week, Brisbane are pretty stingy against their opposition. Midfielders are having a tough time. So is Geelong. So if there's one key angle you want to look at, possibly Lions backs against the Cats and possibly even some forwards as well. But I wouldn't go against the tools too much on this particular game. So they're available at dailyfantasyrankings.com.au. All right, ready? Here we go. Ruck time. Let's look at the slate. $100,000. Mark Blixars leads the ruck division at 12,610. Oscar McInerney is back at 11,530. Daniel McStay, with a ruck availability at 10,530. And then Reece Stanley is the cheapest of them all, $9,470. So plenty of positionals as well. So Blixars is a midfielder, McStay is a forward. But the main two rucks, Oscar McInerney and Reece Stanley, will be head-to-head in this particular matchup. So your thoughts here on the rucks to start with?
Yeah, it's a really, I really like this ruck mix tonight. There were lots of options and lots of kind of narratives to go with those options as well. So I think we'll actually see quite an equally distributed ruck division as well. So starting from the top, Blixarves, he's got the biggest ceiling, you know. Although Omac can chime in with a 90 to 100, Blixarves definitely has the highest ceiling. And I actually really like Blixarves in this matchup. If you go with a game script that Geelong win quite comfortably, then they'll just put him where they need him. You know, if he goes back and gets a couple of +6s towards the end in junk time, he will play his time through the middle. But he's so versatile that he can accrue points in a variety of ways. So Blixarves definitely on my radar, and especially because I often like him on single slates, because people sometimes pay up for the midfielders and paying up for the ruck. And because he's not like a bona fide Gorn, old school Grundy, paying up for a ruckman in this slate could be just a little bit of a unique way to go. Down to Omac, obviously he's a solo ruck at 11K with 90 to 100 capability. So I think he should be definitely considered. A little bit concerned about his fitness. It wouldn't surprise me if he's probably not 100% fit. I thought Darcy Fort did a really good job against Gorn last week. So, it's tough. Omac has been the better ruckman for the whole year, so you have to go with him. But yeah, there's a chance he's injured. And in that case, that brings the next guy into play, which is Daniel McStay. Even though Darcy Fort played last week, McStay still chipped in with an 80. Bring up the box score. How much came from the ruck? Look at that. None at all. No hit outs at all from the ruck. And he still managed to get an 80. Yes, he did kick a couple of goals, but I thought he was actually really quite good further up the ground this time. And he actually gave us a bit of a run around. So McStay's in play, both in his own right and as an injury possibility for McInerney. And then Reece. He got the nod over Segler. I was reading the reports on Twitter today that Segler was at training but didn't actually train, and not through injury, but just because he's not in the frame. So Reece Stanley, barring some kind of freak accident, will play. And we've seen his ceiling before, but God, you wouldn't feel safe. You really wouldn't feel safe. And at 9.5, I just think you're better off paying up for McInerney, or even all the way up to Blixarves. I don't see much upside in Reece. There's not a lot of value, so you could make an argument that you are saving a little bit of cash, but there's enough value to not play Reece Stanley. Yeah,
you're going to have a worrying night if you've either got Daniel McStay or Reece Stanley, and their range of outcomes. And they're wide. They're a massively wide range of outcomes. Like, if you hit with Stanley going 80 plus, fantastic. You're going to have a great night. Same again with McStay. You got McStay in your team and you're like, yes, he's going off. Fantastic. But let's say more often than not, you're going to be really, really grinding your night. Hopefully these two produce. So like you said, the range of outcomes from McInerney and Blixarves are much shorter. Got to pay up, unfortunately, but I'd rather have that kind of night than sweating on Reece Stanley.
Yeah, definitely. All right, shall we move on to the defenders?
I will in a sec. I just got a bit of a shout out. The label down the bottom here, the Rapid Fire Brownlow medal will be available on Friday.
Cool.
It's been brought forward to Sunday night, so don't rock up Monday morning with your bets ready to go and think, where's the Brownlow? It's already done. So Sunday night, check out Draftstars. We'll have our Rapid Fire Brownlow medal selections up through Friday onwards. Very popular last year. So if you know who's going to be winning the votes from every game, from all 200 games this season, and you think you'll be able to take it on, gamble responsibly.
Can you give us one matchup sneak peek, Smatho? What's one of the matchups you're thinking of?
I don't know.
Yes,
it's been in one of those Armaguard cases that that comes by the office on Friday. So we'll crack open the case, and there will be a rapid fire matchup. So keep an eye on those. One thing before we go on to, I was going to say, last time these teams met was actually back in round 4, and Blixstars had 125 in that particular.
There we go.
So, look, 2% weighting, 5% weighting on your selections, but yeah, he did pretty well against the Lions last time out. All right, defenders. Obviously, the star back line here of the Cats: Mitch Duncan, Tommy Stewart, Zach Tui. They lead the slate here. $14,440 will cost you for Duncan. 13,600 for Stewart, and Zach Tui at 12,390. And then we've got a little bit of a price elevation for Coleman and Rich from last week. We were around that 11K mark last week. You've got Coleman at 12,200 and Rich at 11,810. As I referred to earlier in the show, that Brisbane do have a nice matchup against the Cats in terms of defense versus position. So my eyes start to go back towards Coleman. You did say last week he's not going too well, Coleman, but one of the best games that we probably saw from him all year in his 99-point effort there. So I'm pretty keen on either Coleman or Rich, but let's go back to the top and explain why you should be rostering these players in your teams.
Yeah, so Duncan and Stewart, I mean, you don't really need to discuss that too much. They're two super high ceiling plays. We haven't seen Duncan's absolute ceiling too much this year. He's slowing down a bit as he gets a little bit old. But in that he just kind of roams the field. He's got the endurance, to be that first kick out of defence in the back pocket. And then he'll meet up down the wing as well for another possession. So really great chance of the +6s throughout the game. Duncan, especially in junk time as well. And the same thing goes for Stewart. I actually really like a Duncan Stewart pairing, just as a bit of a different. I think that'll be a low. It's not like they won't be owned. They'll be owned, but that combination won't be a very common combination. I really like putting them together in the back line, even though Duncan does have midfield selection capability as well. Tui, if you think that the tends to do better in games where Geelong win well. And that's not a knock against him. That's just how his scores go usually. Gets a bit more outside ball, being on the wing these days rather than a true defender. That defensive kind of wing role that he plays. So he should be in your calculations as well. And then we've got the Brisbane defenders who, as you pointed out, the ball should spend most of its time, you'd think, in Geelong's forward line, which gives Coleman and Rich and those guys first chance at it. Just a few important, interesting things to note that last week's popular play of not Starcevic, he's the one below Starcevic. Ainsworth. Ainsworth was quite a popular play and bombed. He was pretty much the only Brisbane defender who didn't score above his average last week. I don't mind that for some recency bias. People won't want to play him again, so don't mind that as a play. Harris Andrews he's going to have to play lights out. Harris Andrews will have to play lights out if Brisbane are any chance of winning. So he'll match up against Jeremy Cameron. You'd think. They might. I reckon he'll get first crack at Cameron. A little bit worried about who they put on the Tomahawk though. Because if you go down the list, you've got Jack Payne, who, likes to get off. He's more of an interceptor. So I don't know, maybe they do go for a Darcy Gardner, who's more athletic, onto Jeremy Cameron. Then Harris Andrews plays against Hawkins. So it'll be interesting to see. I think they're undersized Sorry, they're not undersized. They're just not good enough.
Right. Okay. Not talented enough.
Yeah, they're big enough, but they're just not good enough. Anyway, so yeah, Daniel Rich, really like him. Like Kitty Coleman, he's the next up and comer, no doubt, and he's had a fantastic year. But Rich is they know what he is, and they want the ball in his hands, so he'd be the one that I play. And then the value options, I actually don't mind Zach Guthrie, chasing a ceiling game from Zach Guthrie at 9.7. If he gets it, you'll do well. You'll be in the top 10 if Zach Guthrie has a big game. And then we've seen that happen, and we've seen people win with a Guthrie ceiling game before as well. Jack Payne is a narrative play that that Brisbane actually do defend well, and he is able to get some intercept marks. I don't really see it happening, but again, if he does that, you'll do very well. And then down the very, very bottom, Buse, not much interested. Darcy Gardner, no. But the kid Wilmot, he's impressive. This kid can play. And what's interesting, if you click on his box scores, he's not a marker. Like he basically just gets the ball and uses it. So if he adds a couple of marks to that, gets his 15 possessions and a couple of marks, there's your value, So I actually think he'll be quite a popular play at 6'4". I'm pretty sure he's come down in value, in price. Sorry, I'm pretty sure he was 7-1 last week. So 6'4" is a little bit of a saving. And yeah, no, I'm not going near Kolodjashnij on the basis of his injuries. Yep.
Yeah, so I can see it playing out three ways. As you explained, you can either go a little high premium Geelong stack, go the Coleman Rich stack, or you get Darcy Wilmot and then pair him out with one of those 5 top 6 guys. I wouldn't be fiddling around with these guys, apart from maybe Zach Guthrie as well. Probably Zach Guthrie into Wilmot is probably the cheapest that you can probably be very comfortable with in your lineups. If not, you might have to start paying up and save your money, even through your ruckman or through your forward line. So they're the options you have for the midfielders. Time for Richos to make a comeback. Our biggest bash champion. I wonder if he's back. You can always go on the Draftstars and type in Richos in the main event. And see
is that a first person comment there?
Well, with a name with Rich
Lock. Are you actually Rich Oz? Interesting. Not sure how I feel about a first person reference. Roody doesn't know how Roody feels about that, so let's move on to the midfielder.
All right, Hugh McCluggage. He's been a warrior. 16,040 leads the midfielders with Lockie Neal at 15-3. We have confirmation, Roody. Yes, there was a first person. Great to have you on.
Hey, he's a biggest bash winner. He can refer to himself any way he wants to. He's got the belt. He's still got the belt, so he can do whatever he wants.
Yep, and being first person is fantastic. Now, and then we got a plethora of cats. Guthrie, 14-7. Duncan, obviously, talked about 14-4. Blixar's already talked about 12-6. So we all go down to Isaac Smith at 12-3. Tommy Atkins at 12,000. That's probably one of his highest prices that he's had. Selwood at 12.50. And then the one I've got my eye on already is Patrick Dangerfield, the bench warmer, at 11,510. So there you, and obviously Jared Berry, our boy, who did a job on your boy. He's there at 11,090. So this is a stacked midfield in terms of quality fantasy scorers. You can't jam them all in. Brisbane options are obviously less often than Geelong options. So would you be more inclined to target Brisbane than Geelong?
No, not necessarily. I don't. I mean, I think that I should. Everyone should know this about me already if they don't. But I don't use projections. I do build teams on narratives of, all right, well, if this person, that person play well, then they'll probably win and blah, 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 blah. So like I just try and play who I think will be really good plays. So for example, in my Geelong wins narrative teams, I will have some Isaac Smith, Dangerfield, and probably not so many of the Brisbane defenders, and I think that there are those 12K Collingwood midfielders, apart from Atkins and Selwood, whose ceilings are a little bit lower. You've got to have a fair sprinkling of the others, of Smith, Dangerfield, Guthrie as well, because if Geelong win and have a lot of possession and they do possess the ball, well, not as much as they used to. They have moved to a better flowing game than they used to. They used to just possession. That's all they did. They have evolved somewhat, and credit to Angry Man Scott for doing that. Anyway, rambling on a bit. Hugh McCluggage, love this kid. He will win a Brownlow. When he learns to kick straight, in terms of goal kicking, he will win a Brownlow. Like he is that good. Probably needs Lockie Neal to retire first. Bless you, Smatho. But he does, yeah. I don't love him tonight, though. I don't think the value he'll return a score big enough to return value for you, as much as I do like him as a football player. Lockie Neal, you love that consistency. You know what you're going to get. Hasn't set the world on fire in terms of ceiling scores, but, lock in 100 and move on. A little bit of a danger that O'Connor tags him. I don't really rate O'Connor that much as a player or as a tagger. Maybe the data might say something different if you have a chance to bring up O'Connor's tagging stats later on, Smatho. But I do like Guthrie. Again, probably a little bit disappointing considering how good he's been the last couple of seasons, especially last year. But he has flashed his ceiling more than a couple of times this year. So he will be in my pool. And then, like I said, the 12K guys, you got to have a sprinkling of all of them. There's not one guy apart from Atkins who I wouldn't have. Now, the interesting thing about Atkins, he's a tackler. If you bring up his box scores, you'll see like in the last 10 games, his lowest tackle count, I think, is 5. That's, between 35 and 45 points worth of tackles. But he's just not getting enough of it. Look at that marking column, though, so hardly any marks. So best way to tackle him, that wasn't intended, by the way, is to maybe get on PointsBet and look at some of the tackle odds that they're offering. Gamble responsibly, of course. Then down the list, of course, my most hated player, Joel Selwood. Yes.
Before you move on, obviously, I've just looked up the weather narrative. Melbourne weather. Tackles, rain, etc. equals fantasy points, right? Friday's weather in Melbourne. Now, we are 24 hours removed from the game. This could completely change, 1 hour before the game. But Friday's forecast, 90% chance of rain, most likely late in the morning with thunderstorms during the afternoon into the evening. 80% chance of rain.
How many mils, though?
4.
Come on, mate. 4 mils. There'll be more mils at the SCG on Saturday than that. Like, come on. That's a Callum Mills reference, by the way. Yeah.
All right, back to Joel Selwood then. Off we go.
Back to Joel Selwood. Yeah, look, 12 is too rich for my blood. So not much interest in Selwood either. So then we got these mid-price Brisbane players. Nearly said Brisbane Bears then, showing my age. Zorko, I thought he was really good last week. That really did that kind of mopping up around half-back kind of role. I thought he was really, really good. So actually a pairing with him and Rich and then another Brisbane defender is the way to go. Because, it's him that was kind of getting the defensive 50 kick inside to Rich, then Rich through the middle. So there's a bit of a correlation behind that as well. Zach Bailey, look, he has been super consistent the last couple of games, but again, just lacks that ultimate ceiling. I don't think he's going to get you a 120, especially in this matchup. And then Jared Berry set the, he was the deciding factor last week. He was absolutely phenomenal. And it's actually an interesting move they made because the kid, Devin Robinson, was actually doing a good job on Oliver up until that point. Like Oliver only had 13 possessions till half time. And it was a bit of a bold move to change up the tag, which I thought was working. Anyway, Berry, considering what do you have? 22 possessions in a half. Anyone with that kind of upside and at 11 should probably be considered. He scored most of his score there was in the second half. Anyway, and then some value options, none that really I love that much. Maxi Holmes is almost a little bit too popular and too expensive for his output at the moment, but is still a reasonable mid-price play. Cam Rayner, not really in this matchup for me. And then Dev Robinson, do they do something with him? Does he go to Dangerfield? Yeah, I mean, possibly. Far out. They didn't even start Dangerfield and Selwood in their midfield for in the first and third quarters. So who knows? He's a bit of an unknown for me, but at that price, I do still like him.
Calamachi is the last player on the slate there at 6,870. As you can see here, Rudy, they're the only two below 7.4K. Almost out of necessity, you probably have to play one of these players. You would assume that everyone will just get up to Devon and leave Callum alone. And we can see why.
Yep.
Now, update on the belt. Richos is wearing the belt.
Photos or it didn't happen.
Let's move on to forwards. Jeremy Cameron, 13,040. Game breaker, fantasy ceilings there. Price is there, though. Thoughts?
I mean, you die on the hill, yeah? Play him and he goes 120, and again, he'll be what? 15 or below owned, at that price. So, yeah, it's worth it. Definitely worth a play. I love him. He's one of my favourite players. I hate that he plays for Geelong because I hate them so much. But he's so good, So yeah, he. That 146 game. Look, I don't think that's going to happen. But could he get your 100? Yeah, quite easily. Even doesn't really have to do that much to get to a 90 or 100. And while everyone is chasing the midfielders to get you 100, go for a forward. And yeah, there's your separation from the field. So he's in consideration. He'd be in my pool for sure. And then even Hawkins as well. Far out. Go for I don't think you can possibly have the money for this. I'll muck around with it later on tonight after the show. But a Duncan, Stewart, Hawkins, Cameron team. Could you possibly get that to work? I don't think it's possible. You'd have to play whatchamacallit? You have to play Dev Rob and Archie, I think, in the midfield to even possibly get to it.
And probably a Wilmot and a Wilmot and a Stan. Oh no, you wouldn't be able to play Wilmot, so just be a Stanley too.
Yeah. Who else? Brad Close. While everyone goes for Max Holmes and Stengel, I don't mind a little bit of a contrarian play to Brad Close. Has done quite well without the accolades of Stengel and Max Holmes. By the way, have you noticed they say Holmes? Holmes? Like it's Holmes. It's Holmes. Holmes? No, Holmes. Anyway, and also I do like Stengel as well, especially in like a Cameron Stengel pairing is much easier to make than a Hawkins one. Just that 1K difference between the two of them. And then you get into your cheaper options, which really in this matchup I don't love. Charlie Cameron, Hipwood, McCarthy, Danaher. Like you can obviously, it goes without saying, I guess, but you can only play them if you think the Brisbane are going to win. I don't have much interest in them unless I will throw in a couple of Brisbane win narrative teams that I'll play. Probably Hipwood would be the one that I put in there. And also right down the bottom. Yep. I'm
Gary Rowan.
I am. I've got to admit, I think that, clearly his score was inflated just a little bit because of those 3 goals. but he looks bloody good. Like, he has these games where he doesn't just play, kick a couple of goals. It's how he does it. Like that pack mark, far out. He looked like one of the best forwards in the competition, So, of course, there's a you break it, you bought it, you broke it kind of policy with him and his injuries. But he really did look impressive last week. He probably read all the articles about him and said, fuck this, I'm doing well.
Flaw, though. Absolute no flaw, though.
No, actually, he's flawed. Like, he's woeful. It's actually woeful. Yeah. I'm just
you going to say so?
Frantically clicking around here, not to make changes to my team for those, Rudy's making changes, people out there. But I'm just seeing whether I can get that Cameron Hawkins, Duncan Stewart team to work. And I think you can, but it's not pretty. Oh, actually, okay. How's this? Okay, I'm still clicking away. Wow.
Would you like my tape?
I don't mind. Okay, here we go. So do this. This is my ultimate contrarian team. So we've got Hawkins, Cameron. Plug them in.
Yes.
Then Dev, Rob, Dangerfield, Archie, and Blixarves.
So Blixarves in the mids. Yeah.
Yep. Dev, Rob,
Danger. Dev, Rob,
and Archie.
Oh yes.
Yep. And then Duncan Stewart. And then Reece Stanley.
Just got enough for Stanley.
Yeah.
I don't mind that.
It's not horrible. It's actually not horrible. Stack. Like, if you consider that most people are going to play Devon Robinson anyway, right? No one's going to play Archie. He's not going to be owned. And Stanley doesn't fill me with confidence. But the rest of those players, the ceilings that you got 1, 2, 3, 4 players who have 120 ceilings. So don't mind that. Might chuck that in actually. There we go. But it's not my prearranged team for the evening, everyone. Smatho,
I'll press the X button. There we go. Off we go. Okay, this is the team. This
is the team. Actually, I like the other one better. No, okay. So this is a team. I've got Oscar McInerney in the ruck, please.
Yes. Yeah.
And then I have
upside.
As you suggested, I have gone for the Wilmot Daniel Rich combination.
Take that for data, as they say.
Yep.
Rich and Wilmot.
Then I've got, I suppose this isn't a bad cash team, actually. Then I've got Lockie Neal, Blixarves, Guthrie, and Dev Rob.
Dev Rob. And who was your last one there?
Guthrie.
Oh, where do you go? Cameron? Yes. And for your forwards?
And then forwards, I've got Gary Rowan and Jeremy Cameron.
So you have got enough cash for Jezza.
Yeah.
So there we go. So that's Cameron, Gary Rowan, Lockie Neal, Mark Blixarves, Devon Robertson, Cameron Guthrie, Daniel Rich, Darcy Wilmot, and Oscar McInerney. Yeah,
and if you want to go a little bit safer there is actually enough money to go from Guthrie down to Dangerfield, and then you can go Zorko and Stengel in your forward line.
Very good.
Yep.
Yes, here's Zorko on that. Excellent. All right, so there's Roody. He said 3 teams there ready to go for the draft stars.
Three for the price of one.
3 for the price of one. 3 for the price of one. Gamble responsibly at A+ all times. Draftstars.com.au 1-800-858-858. All those taglines. Now, we'll be back with a bonus episode of the Draftstars AFL show. We're going to have a look at the Saturday prelim between the Swans and the Pies. We'll do that as a recording. So look out for the episodes either on podcast or on YouTube. Obviously, we'll be dropping sometime on Friday. Roody, good luck for your teams on Friday night on Draftstars. And as I said, the Brownlow medal or rapid fire will be available throughout Friday as well. Thank you to all the viewers and the listeners. Make sure you give us a like on the way out. Subscribe to the YouTube channel on Daily Fantasy Rankings, as always. Rudy, thanks very much, mate.
Thank you, and we'll see you tomorrow for another episode.
Enjoy your hot shower. Catch you later.